Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Now, you guys may be wondering, or may not be, well, Kara, you said you would be doing character creation video reviews and or games of an open world nature. Yet, why haven't you done one? Correct, I haven't legitimately done a character review. So, we're going to be doing that. Without further ado, I give you Tera Online. This is a game published by En Masse Entertainment, and it was recently a pay-to-play. I want to refer to it as a AAA title. Take it or leave it as you will. Now, it'll be going free-to-play in about 2 days, the 5th of February 2013. So I figured I would get this video out before then, though the likelihood of it mattering is small and marginal at best. But hey, what have you. Before we go into it, though, I feel it necessary to explain, as we sit on this title screen, if you will, that I have a criterion upon which I will be doing my reviews of character creation. Before I explain that, though, it is important you understand that these reviews are solely on character creation. There are plenty of other channels and people out there who do reviews on games themselves, and I'm going to leave that to them. That's their thing. I find that I don't enjoy games unless there's a character review. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy all games, but I'm sorry, not character review, character creation. I just enjoy them more if there is one. This criteria will be a 1 in 100, 100 being good, 1 being bad, and I have 10 categories that the review will be based on, upon which I will not tell you those categories, because I feel that if you knew that, you wouldn't get the honest feel of it. I don't know. Either way, let's go into it. So I brought us to the character server selection screen here. We've only got 3. I don't know if there will be more upon free to play, but who knows. So we're going to go ahead and pick Celestial Blues real quick. Upon clicking it, you're brought through a warp gate. Those actually exist in game, but as I said, we'll get to it. You'll see I have a priest already. So, Wonderwood class, I like notice, is only level 11. It's fair to assume I have been playing Tera a long time. So, as that's evident, I will tell you flat out, no, I haven't. I've been playing for about 3 days on and off. For reasons that I won't go into because it's not relevant to character creation. So, when you're brought here the first time and you don't have a character, you don't have delete, you don't have play, you only have options, server list, and new character. So let's go ahead and grab new character and begin our review into the character creation of Tera Online, be it for better or for worse. Alright, so upon getting in here, you're brought to the race selection. Now, I'll be fair and honest here. I find that there are enough races for anybody here, anybody who thinks about playing Tera, to find something they like. And unlike a lot of other games, you are not gender restricted when it comes to classes, but we'll get into that in a second. So you have your humans, the staple of any game ever. You can't have a game without humans, it just be them good or bad, what have you. You've got Castanic, which are I don't really know how to explain them. I guess it's like a demonic version of a dark elf. Yeah, as I said, if you feel like you need more lore on all of these races, go to any wikia or anybody who knows Tera by heart, and you'll probably find lore on them there. The only ones I know about are the Papori and the Ellen in terms of lore, but that's just because there was some controversy about the NA and or international version of fucking Tera. So you've got them on, which are, upon looking at them, Dragonkin. Yeah. So, I mean, the girls are, I mean, you know, I'm a pervert, I do things. Got Papori, which are, yeah. Got Ellen, which are, without a doubt, a Lollicon's wet dream. You've got Baraka, which are Baraka. You've got High Elf. Probably the second staple in any game ever is the elves. So, yeah. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and choose Ellen because I can. We're going to go take a look at classes. Alright, so you're brought here and you're given 7 classes. Now, before I go in and explain each class separately, I will say this. Each class feels its own. Now by this, I simply mean, imagine you're playing most generic cookie-cutter MMOs out there. You can have a sorcerer and a archer. They feel exactly the same, just one shot's magic and one shot's bow. I don't like that. In Tera, I'll give them the respect they deserve, that each class feels different from the other, even the priest and the mystic down there at the bottom. They have a lot of similarities, but you still feel vastly different in terms of your mechanics. Of course, they are vastly different. Okay, now that we're past that, let's go to classes themselves. Warrior. Now, I come from a long history of MMO playing. Final Fantasy XI, World of Warcraft. I'm not gonna list them all. I've pretty much played everything out there except things I can't get my hands on, such as Japan only video games. I can't touch those without doing illegal tidbits, which I don't do. Alright then, so you've got Warrior. Now, in Final Fantasy XI, a Warrior is a tank, and that's pretty much it. They can do their damage, but they're solely a tank. Well, no, fuck that. Let's go ahead and mind wipe you, as Yugi says, mind crush, and come here, okay? Warrior is it's a good in-between middle ground. It can tank, but not over a Lancer. It can do damage, but not over a Berserker. Yet on its own, yeah, okay, it's survivable because it can do both categories at about the 70% effectivity mark. So we're going to go ahead and let Warrior have its due. If you like dual wielding, you like quick attacks, you like light on your feet, nimble characters, then by all means a Warrior is your class. So let's grab Lancer. Lancer is a class that I liked in theory. It is, well, a Lancer. You've got your shield and a huge fucking ridiculously sized lance. And unlike a lot of games that will give you a spear and they're like, you use lances. No, let's use Final Fantasy XI for an example. I was a Dragoon for most of my stay on that game. You have spears and lances. The lances in that didn't feel like lances, but look at this motherfucker right here. Look at that thing, and then look at the size of her. That thing is thrice her size. Feels like a lance. Now, Lancers in Tera are your tanks. That's what they are, that's what they do. They are your tanks. There are no questions about this, ask anybody. That does not mean they don't have the ability to do damage. Oh, they do. Just not in comparison to the next two classes. Alright? The auto attack for the Lancer is unique in regards to when it's just 3 stabs in front of you, but each stab hits multiple times. I actually believe the first one hits 4 times, the second hits twice, and the third hits 3 times. Or it may just be one hit that's really powerful. Either way, I like that. Lancer was enjoyable, and as it's in a tank, it gives you an interesting perspective of tanking, I guess. But at the same time, it makes sense. Either way. Slayer. Now, before I continue, I forgot to mention I have tested all these classes up to level 10. I understand and am well aware that level 10 isn't where you hit the peak of each class. I get it, but it's far enough into the levels. I mean, max level's like 60 right now, I think, so it's far enough in that you get a general idea of how the class will play. I feel that if I'm going to be doing a review on character creation and it involves classes, I need to understand the classes in order to explain them a little better, which I'm not doing too good at anyways. Either way, we move on to Slayer. Slayer is pretty self-explanatory. Its name, and just by looking, well, maybe not because I'm her apparently, but looking at it, you're like, okay, great sword, light armor, is it fast and does it hit hard? That's pretty much a Slayer. It is a mobility-based DPS class. That is pretty much the Slayer in a nutshell. Your auto attack, which isn't really auto attack because Tera's combat doesn't work that way, is, I think it hits in a nice arc around you. It's fairly fast considering it's a greatsword, and you start with a nice dodge. You can't block like a Lancer can, but you can dodge out of the way. This starts you off right off the bat. You're able to get a feel for the class, like, oh, okay, you're either gonna like it or you're not. Your abilities consist of heavy-hitting, multi-hit abilities. Now by that, you're like, well, what is a heavy-hitting, multi-hit abilities? I mean, it'll take like 6 hits to do something, but those 6 hits will equal pretty large damage. So the thing you gotta worry about is, will these 6 hits land? Well, that's where Slayer comes in. They have a few CC-based snares and whatnot. So, in a party, a Slayer is pretty much another version of a Deeps, just with a little more survivability on its hand, unlike, say, a Sorcerer, which we'll get into. Alright, so Berserker. This is actually my second favorite class in the game. I loved Berserker. Now, I usually don't like things like this. You know, you hit hard, you can take a hit, but that's it. No, I fucking loved Berserker, and I don't know why. The class plays the way you would expect it to. Most games, if you're a Berserker, you have stances or shouts or abilities where you take Dark Knight from Final Fantasy XI. That's, yeah. You sacrifice health, you sacrifice defense, and then you hit with the power of 1,000 goddamn suns in the span of a second. Well, in this, you don't really get that. I believe they have a stance or a shout or something that allows them that, but you don't need it to get the feel for the class. Berserker's auto attack is the hardest hitting thing to start with. As I said, for those of you who like Tera and are like, it's not auto attack, take it with a grain of salt. I solely mean your cookie cutter, everybody has your starter attack, and this is just your use it to use it thing. It hits harder than any of the other beginning classes. And Berserker's other abilities are charge abilities, and I don't mean charges and I rush my enemy. No, you hold the button down and a bar goes up. It takes about half a second for it to fill, and then you get another bar at rank 2, another at rank 3, and the longer you hold that down at full charge, you hit hard, and they chain into more charge abilities. So if you want to do real damage, Berserker is a hell of a way to go, because you can. It also starts with a block. You hold the axe in front of you, and you block. Really no need for an explanation there. It's real cool that that is a thing for the Berserker, because your survivability to DPS ratio is a thing. You can actually dish thousands of damage out in a span of seconds and block. I love it. I found it interesting. Definitely a favorite of mine. Sorcerer. I can't possibly explain this class better than the namesake does. It is your typical shot, heavy-hitting magic mage class. It doesn't use a staff or anything in the traditional sense, and your auto/beginning attack is a small fireball. It hits fairly hard. The difference between, say, Sorcerer and Berserker, other than the one being ranged and one melee, is that Sorcerer has a lot of abilities that it uses. A lot more button clicks than almost all the other classes, and because of this, there's a lot of micromanaging involved, even though it says player skill of 2. If you're like me, you don't like a lot of micromanaging. You prefer to use 3 or 4 buttons and get away with it. So, yeah, it's got a few evasive maneuvers, it's got a few, I think it has a few holds, etc. Archer. Another class that pretty much self-explains itself. I can't explain this better than it is. It is your typical Shoppo. The only unique thing I think there is to say about Archer is it's more like a Quincy from the anime and or manga Bleach, in which you don't have a quiver of arrows, you actually shoot beams of light. Archer does have a fair amount of AoE abilities. I know a lot of games give him 1 or 2, and then the rest are single target uber heavy hitting abilities. Well, in this, you actually get a lot. I mean, you get your uber heavy-hitting single target, sure, but you get a fair amount of AoE to be able to deal with crowds. I found that interesting, and I certainly liked Archer, but it just isn't my thing. You've got Priest. Priest is ignoring how cute the Ellen girl is right there. Priest is my favorite class in this game, okay? It's not like WoW, where you have your holy priest and then your shadow priest. No, there's no different priests. You just have abilities. You have about 3 heavy-hitting abilities, and then you've got a lot of stuff to help you survive, such as some evasive maneuvers that are pretty cool and flashy at that. You've got a lot of heals and whatnot. Every caster, sorcerer, priest, and mystic, have a self-mana healing ability. So they can always regenerate mana. The only difference is the only problem is you can't use it in combat, although Priest does have a combat-based mana regenerating ability that has a cap on how much you can use. It's a charge-based ability, much like the Berserker's everything, but it's unique. I like it. You're able to do enough damage to survive in PvE, and since I'm a PvEer over a PvPer, I can't attest to how it works in PvP. And in dungeons, you really don't gotta engage in combat. Let the other classes do their thing, and you just stand there and throw heals and keep your mana up. It's pretty straightforward. I enjoyed it a lot. Mystic. Mystic is a different class, and it's hard to explain because it seems to incorporate aspects of multiple different classes in different games. For example, think of it being a combination of an Affliction Lock, a Holy Priest, and a Hunter from World of Warcraft in one. People are like, well, how? I don't exactly. You have some heals, you have a lot of AoE. That's one of the things I'm going to give Mystic a lot of respect for, is they have a good amount of AoE to just dish out damage. You get rid of little shitty crowds of trash real fast. They have their pets. They have 3 or 4, I believe. You have your tanky pet, your super deeps pet. You have a heal pet that doesn't really stay out. It just appears, does mass healing like a priest equivalent, and then vanishes. And they've got something else, I think. They have a lot of good dots. Their dots are pretty powerful compared to anything a sorcerer and a priest has. And they have group healing, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, a Mystic has a team mana healing mechanic. That is nice for everybody. Everybody. So there's that. So let's go ahead and go back real quick. Just because. Let's go ahead and click on human, because it's the basic class for everything. Go in here. Just choose warrior. Doesn't matter. Let's get to the proper customization of your character. Alright. Now, first thing you'll notice is, well, the game doesn't really look that good. I actually have my graphics fairly low. As I said, my computer is good to run stuff, but it's not good enough to run stuff on high graphics with recording software running at the same time. So I had to make a compromise. I kept character polygons and textures up as high as I could without breaking, I don't know, the character. And since this is solely about character creation, I feel like that is fine. Alright, so presets. We've got a lot of presets here. They go up to 20. Now, 2 days ago, I don't recall there being 20. I think there were only 16. That being said, I believe they added more preparing for the free-to-play. So either way, if you're like me, presets you'll never actually use. You'll edit the shit out of a character. Well, like me, I choose a preset based on that has a facial shape and bone structure similar to what I would make in a character, solely to ease my frustration of having to change every tiny little aspect, which I ultimately end up doing anyways. Now, objectively speaking, the one thing about Tera Online that bothers me personally in regard to character creation is you cannot actually edit the body at all. This is a con, and I did rate negatively for that, but luckily enough, the body's proportions aren't too terrible. But, as I said, that's more of a subjective statement, because simply put, I don't like this. But there are some people out there who would like this, and I'm not trying to be that guy right now. So, alright, and you've got random here, which you can click and get a bunch of stuff, so I mean, you're good to go. Let's go to features. Features is, simply put, your hair and hair color option. I don't know why they didn't just name it hair, but whatever, right? Who cares? You've got a fair amount of hair options. 18 for human, and then they range from long hair to whatever the fuck that is to that. I mean, you've got short and long. You've got a fair amount. You've got awkward colors like that bright green, orange, red, darks and whatnot. So you've got a fair amount. I gave this a good rating solely because I like the variety. Every race is different though. Like Castanic don't have as much, I believe. Let's go ahead and go over to Castanic though before we continue, just so I can show you an example of something. Let's choose female this time, just because. Alright, let's go back to find details. No, features we were at. The problem with the Castanics, and the same with the Popori and the Ellen, is that horns and the Ellen's ears and the Popori's, yeah, are attached to hairstyles. So if there was a hairstyle you really wanted, but you didn't want a certain horn style, like let's say you wanted those horns, but you wanted that hair. Sorry, too bad, can't get it. So I can chalk that down as a negative, and I'll tell you why once we get down to adornments. But either way, so you've got a fair amount of options here, and while there's a negativity of having horns attached to hair and whatnot, humans, High elves don't have to worry too much about that, but for those who want to play a Kastanic or an Ellen, there's something to look forward to or not look forward to. Let's go to face. There's also a fair amount of facial options, and they come in a different variety. You know, you've got some decent looking ones, and then, okay, Kastanic women seem to have all around cute faces. What the hell is this nonsense? Let's try to find one that's not. Well, apparently Kastanic women were born... Okay, that looks kind of what the fuck. That was way better than a lot of the other ones. Either way. Okay. So you've got a lot of options, and then you've got your skin tones that you can do. And these aren't all the same for each race. For example, the High Elf cannot get this dark. There's no way. They just don't have it. So while some may consider that a negative, well, I can't be a drow-looking guy. Fair enough. You're correct. You can. But they're also High Elves. No High Elf in the history of High Elves is dark-skinned. Welcome to the way elves work. Bitch at me if you want. Now, adornments. This is what I was talking about when I was explaining the hair and horns. There's no reason horns couldn't be an adornment, because adornments is your tattoos and your makeup and your... For the High Elf, they have a weird fucking one earring deal. So there's no reason they couldn't just put the goddamn horns here. Now, I have her skin dark, so let's go ahead and change that to something light so we can see better. Adornments, for the most part, affect the makeup and the way eyeliner and lipstick is carried. And in some regards, for the Ellen, for an example, you have little... There's one that'll have, like, stars in the eyes, and the High Elves have a lot of... Yeah, they have an earring down here. Let's go ahead and choose a different face. Let's choose this. Some faces don't have the same adornments. So that's something to keep in mind. Luckily, if you've got a bunch of different faces you like and you want to see the adornments, you've got that going for you. There's a fair amount of options to make yourself look somewhat unique versus everybody else. I still think it's ridiculous that the horns are attached to features. I can understand if maybe they were separate, like you had another layer, but they're not. Oh well. Fine details is the self-explanatory part of this. It's a shame they don't have body proportions. Like, you can't... Hello? You can't edit this. At the same time, I enjoy it because I don't want to see girls walking around with, like, quadruple Q-sized breasts or anything. I think that's fucking stupid. And as somebody who's played Ion a bunch, I'm tired of seeing the long-armed, fucking golem-looking 1-foot-tall characters because they have smaller hitboxes. So I guess, in regard, it prevents that, but at the same time, it also prevents people like myself from properly customizing your characters. Like, what if you're a type of person who wants to have a female with A-cup breasts, because that really exists on the internet? I think it does, but you know, all those lonely-ass dudes. Anyways, so you can't do it. Oh well. But you have a fair enough. You have your brow, and all of these are really self-explanatory. You put brow up, it gets bigger. You put it down, it gets lower. Cheekbones, what have you. They affect what you expect them to affect. There's a nice amount of options, and you can really edit these so much that if you chose a preset, it would really just destroy the preset. It would vastly change it. So that's why I said presets. If you're into it, hey, whatever. If you're not, hey, whatever, you know. Eyes, straightforward. You can do the shape, and then, you know, shape pretty much is, yeah. And then your angle, yeah. You've got you can do the inner and outer brow, which I like. You've got your nose, bridge. You've got a bend, which will, well, break it. Break the nose. You've got mouth. It's pretty basic stuff. Like I said, it's not like Ion where you have enough creation to just really make whatever you want, but it's enough that where it seems they wanted you to be more realistic with your characters, not have something so fugly. While you can make a pretty ugly character, it's nothing on other aspects, so we're fine there. And ear stuff, which is angles and what have you. I mean, yeah, so it's pretty cool. Either way. Alright, outfits, these don't matter, these just give you a general idea of what your later outfits will be like. Yes, the Kastanic dress, rather revealing-y, but like I said, they're pretty much demonic dark elves, if that's a thing. Now, one thing I'll explain about hair. Notice this character actually has long hair. Well, what happens when you put an outfit on with a collar? Okay. It goes up. That is a small, tiny little feature that I myself enjoy, because I like long hair. For those of you who don't like long hair and use short hair, obviously this isn't relative to you, but relevant to you. This is to me, though. So if you have long hair, you don't have to worry about it clipping through a collar. It'll put it in a bun. If you don't like buns, oh well. It's either clipping or a bun. Deal with it. You've got voices, too. Now, these aren't... This isn't like SWTOR, where your character really speaks. They pretty much just have battle/combat orgasms, which is okay. So the fact that you have 5 or 6 little dots of voice options is nice enough. It gives you some diversity, as opposed to, say, SWTOR, a good game for what it's worth. But everybody that is one class, all you millions of Sith sorcerers out there, have the same voice. I personally didn't like that, but I can understand it would have costed a lot more in a game like SWTOR to hire more voice actors than a game like this, where you can just have one and then change the pitch and contrast in an audio software. So I get it, but hey, it's better than nothing, correct? Alright, that pretty much covers that. So let's go ahead and talk about gear and skills. I'm not going to log into the game to show you some skills, because that would be gameplay. That is not what I'm about. Okay, not unless I'm doing a playthrough of a game, which is a little harder for an MMO. So I'll just sit right here on my health with softer music and explain it real quick. Every class has skills. The amount of skills differ, but all of this is common sense. You would expect a sorcerer to have a lot more skills than, say, a warrior, and rightfully so. And they do, but class has different chains they can do and different abilities that activate certain chains. For example, a priest only really has 3 offensive abilities, not counting their quote-unquote auto attack. Yet a sorcerer has a fuck ton. So you can expect more diversity based on the class you chose via how you edited them. It's not like DCUO, for example, which has a very interesting set of skills, or God forbid the Secret World, which has possibly the best skill-based system in any game I've ever played. But it's enough for a Korean-based MMO. I find this fair. Gear-wise, casters wear light armor, Slayer, Warrior, Leather, Archer Leather, I believe, and the rest are heavy, Lancer, Berserker, what have you. And that makes sense. And I believe that each, let's say, heavy armor, you can have, like, let's just say tiers for the sake of examples purposes. If you have like 4 sets of tier 3 armor, so you have different appearance options, if you will. And in-game, which is a shame that it's not here, there's actually a dye system. There's a shop or an NPC that you can dye your outfits at, and you have the freedom to change outfits. You can use certain pieces in appearance, like that coat my priest is wearing right there. Some outfits will say you can't use this as a catalyst, what have you. Some you can. So you can fairly use a level 1 coat if you like that more than a lot of high-end armor. I'm going to use World of Warcraft. I found that I liked a lot of lower ranked armor than a lot of higher ranked. They just got ridiculous looking later on. So it's nice that you could take the appearance, like Guild Wars does the same thing, and attach it to another piece. I find that adds to your character creation. So, and about covers Tera Online. In a nutshell, I would fairly say that it's got a decent character creation. It's definitely above average. They could have added more, and there's some stuff that I wish they would heavily think about, but the chances of that happening are not. They don't gender lock outside of, say, the Ellen, but there's story behind that. Technically, the Ellen and the Popori are the same fucking race, but when they wanted to port it over to the Merca, there was controversy over the idea that they were the same race when the Ellen looked like lollies and the Popori looked like animals. People whined and bitched that that's child pornography or bestiality. It's controversy that I'm just not even gonna fucking go into. It's stupid, but either way, those are probably the only things, and I guess the Amon, that are gender locked. But to be fair, they're not locked from any class. It's just you can't be a female Amon, and if you want to be a male Ellen, be a fucking Papori. And for those of you out there who are gonna whine and bitch at me that American or European NA, they're different races, that's their new lore, I don't give a shit. Lord of the Rings was a book before it was a movie. The lore in the book trumps the lore in the movie. Deal with it. You don't have to agree. Deal with it. It's a fact. Either way, my rating for Tera Online's character creation is 74 out of 100. It's certainly above average, but it's nothing so good that everybody must single-handedly drop what they're doing and all bum rush Tera and give it a shot. But I myself, subjectively speaking, I like it. I find it's nice. I found myself enjoying character creation more than I did the actual game. I think I've deleted my characters multiple times. That's why I have a level 11 priest when I actually started with a mystic. And I've tested every class up to 10, plus some of them. So, give it a shot. As I said, people, 74 out of 100. Tera Online En Masse Entertainment will be free to play on the 5th of February 2013, in 2 days from the moment of this recording. Alright then, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope that this helped in some way, shape, or form. If you do decide to give it a shot, by all means, I hope you enjoy it. And thank you for the time. I hope to see you next time. And if there is a specific game you would like me to go over, maybe because you can't or whatever, let me know, and I'll see if I can give it a shot. Thank you for watching.